Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Oh my gosh. We have tried to start this podcast, like 5 times?
Uh-huh.
I'm dying. Are you frustrated over there?
I've lost my words. I lost my words.
I'm dying over here. This is what it's like working with your spouse.
Is it?
Is it?
Most people probably don't work with their spouses.
Yeah, for a good reason.
Yeah, they're like, we want to save the marriage altogether.
But yesterday you told me you missed working with me.
I know.
Yeah,
I lie
you
through my
forgot
teeth
about
sometimes.
this.
I'm like, whatever makes you happy.
I lie through
Here's
my
some more
teeth.
lies.
I lie through my teeth.
Just want to give you a hit of dopamine. I miss you.
Okay, but really, I do like working with you. We're just having a hard time starting this
We
podcast.
are. I don't know why we're having a hard time ramping up. It's probably about as hard ramping up for this as it is for people to do the holidays together, which is what we're talking about today.
That's not a good segue. Only some people it's hard. Some people love their holidays.
And some people love their holidays.
Some people are like looking forward. I mean, everybody's putting up their Christmas tree
Everybody really wants.
before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because we want holiday magic this year.
We do. We need some special magic
We need some
sparse through our
cheer.
holidays.
Some mistletoe. Justin said he's going to wear mistletoe all holiday season, so everyone has to kiss him.
Everyone. Lay it on. I don't care who you are.
Bald
Beardy
head.
McGee, get over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what we did?
No, what did we do?
We broke a 12-year tradition.
Yeah, a 12-year tradition of not putting up a Christmas tree.
What? That's
Yeah.
what everyone just said.
Yep. So we ended up finally putting up a Christmas tree. We've all had our emotions about different holiday stuff. And for
And by
us,
we all, you mean me and you.
me and you.
Yeah.
And other people. Other people all have different holiday emotions. But specifically, we've had emotions around putting together Christmas stuff. And we did that. We started that journey together.
Yeah. You know what's funny is it's kind of vulnerable.
What?
Jumping into trying to create Christmas cheer. I realized that what I think me and you both learned is that you couldn't have expectations for how holidays were going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learned to just whatever, fine, I have no expectations.
Right.
Fine, I'm not engaging this at all.
Yeah.
I used to have so much wonder and excitement about the holidays. And then it was like, I don't care about anything. You can't hurt me. You can't disappoint me.
Totally. You want to process your pain?
But
Your
so
life.
I think I realized it doesn't feel vulnerable in that I have expectations now, but it just feels vulnerable in I'm re-engaging the muscle of celebration.
Yeah.
And celebration when you've had a lot of disappointment feels vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being vulnerable. Appreciate that.
Yeah. What has it been for you?
I don't know. I just work. It's been a lot of work, and now it doesn't feel like work. I'm engaging it through connection. And I'm just thinking, hey, I'm going to do this with Abby, and we're going to figure out how to make a really fun, beautiful holiday.
Oh, instead of it feeling like it has
Work.
to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the holidays,
Uh-huh.
people, y'all out there, you're about to head into some holiday experiences. Some of you might stay locked inside of basements because of Corona, and that's your own prerogative. Others will be gathering together in beautiful family fashions at Thanksgiving meals. And
Others will be purposely avoiding their family and doing a
Yes.
Friendsgiving.
yes.
And others will be wishing that the movie theaters were open so that they could be by themselves.
Yeah, some people will be using COVID as a legitimate excuse to not have to do
"Woohoo!
holidays.
I don't have to go.
I'm sorry. I just don't want to spread this COVID thing, and so I won't be able to be there. And
introverted's dream this year.
yeah, it really is. I wonder if some of those people who are not wanting to see family and want to use COVID as an excuse will also use that as an excuse for FaceTime and Zoom calls. Yeah, but we really still don't know how it gets transferred.
It could happen. That's funny.
But with the holidays comes some oftentimes intense heated debates around politics.
Well, I think even before we jump into politics, the idea that holidays magnify whatever's inside. And sometimes some of us can dissociate into the holiday magic. So like the way we avoid pain is getting so excited. I actually love that so many people are celebrating Christmas this year before Thanksgiving because everybody's like, we need wonder and cheer and excitement.
What do you mean celebrating Christmas?
Like so many people are putting up their Christmas trees already, decorating for Christmas already. Like
they've skipped Thanksgiving altogether.
Seriously, in the stores, there's way more Christmas stuff than Thanksgiving stuff.
That's true. I don't think I've seen anything Thanksgiving-y.
They've already started playing Christmas music in the mall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and in stores. That's what I'm saying. We've jumped ahead because the whole world understands we need tidings of comfort and joy. Comfort and joy.
Everyone's like, here's your peppermint latte. Sip it up.
Wait, why was that a mean pepper? Aren't you excited to get your peppermint latte?
Well, yeah, but they're just like shoving it in your face. They're like, look, we all need hope right now. Take your peppermint latte. Pretend it's already Christmas. Let's go with this.
It's so true. Mm-hmm. So I think that I just want to validate again for people out there. If holidays can be painful for lots of reasons. And we're going to the conversation today will be talking about politics on the holidays because this is a year that probably a lot of families are going to do that or friends or whatever. We want to help you not destroy your holidays this year. But I just want to validate holidays can feel so many different emotions because they are filled with triggers from your childhood.
Yep.
And people put so much expectation and pressure on a moment, on a day, that disappointment is so easy to happen. If you spend all year waiting for Christmas, it's easy for Christmas to let you down.
Especially this year, if you were in lockdown and then you're like, all right, I'm coming out of like not seeing people or not connecting to people in certain ways. And if I'm going to show up at Thanksgiving with my family or my friends and I'm going to do something like that. And it might be a first event you're even doing in a real tangible way or something like that.
Yeah.
And you have so much pressure on it, making up for all the depleted experiences you've had in 2020. It could be really high stakes and really even more painful.
But I mean, you don't even need COVID to have it be high stakes and painful.
No, you don't. No. I'm just saying it's super amplified.
Yeah. It just amplifies all of it. Mm-hmm.
And with that, you also have going into it a lot of people's emotions about things like COVID.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of discussions around that, intense discussions that want to be had. And people have been disconnected and want to talk about their pain without labeling it as pain. Can you believe what happened at this election? Can you believe what happened with COVID? And you're like, why are you
What is happening with the economy? Everything's going to crap.
1,000%, instead of saying like, this year has been painful. Can we have fun? Someone just hug me at this meal. I just need one hug. 200 some days without a hug.
My soul is dying for a hug.
Totally. So you have a lot of that happening going into the holidays here. And especially we wanted to have a specific dialogue around politics.
Yeah.
Because that is supercharged.
And there's a lot of political issues. Mm-hmm. And the main one is veganism.
Yeah.
Now.
Right during Thanksgiving. Should we not eat this turkey and just feast on vegetables?
Yeah.
But this is going to be a guide to political discussions during the holidays.
Yep.
Like not a comprehensive one, but how do we actually approach this and dismantle politics as far as how that brings charge to this holiday season that already has triggers and pain in it? I
think the first thing that you have to start with, and you can't do this in every gathering because some gatherings you're not in control of at all, but I think it's helpful to, if you have the capacity to, start like when Thanksgiving meal, when everybody gets there to start cooking, be like, hey, this year there's a lot of political stuff going on. Our heart for today is that we have fun and that we connect. And if it starts to get super political, I think I'm going to try to change the subject to bring it back to something that's connecting.
I think I'm going to one-up you on that.
Oh.
I think I would even possibly send text messages given you can, you
I like that better.
You have the temperature of the family or the group of people you're with. So you'll know like if you can do this, but it's like, hey guys, I love you all. I'm so excited for the holidays. It's been a rough year for all of us. One of the things that could be
you don't have to say it's been a rough, that's such a Debbie Downer text.
Well, whatever, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
I would acknowledge that it's been rough personally because it's like, hey, can we just realize the reality of the situation so we don't need to make it worse?
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying it's been a rough year, so let's not make it worse.
Yeah, let's not intensify this by bringing, and I know we've had an intense political season that's been happening.
Totally.
Can we not amplify it? I think we all want to have joy and fun. Can we limit our conversations of politics as much as possible? Is everyone on board with that?
Yeah.
Big smile face, thumbs up.
Yeah.
One of those things, you know, some emojis to soften the blow.
You got to put a lot of emojis in text like that. They actually really do soften it.
They really do, don't they?
Smiley faces, some smiley faces with the hands waving. They call that the hug. It doesn't look like a hug to me, but
yeah, I don't know what that thing is.
Some laugh faces, you know,
and then
some turkey legs.
And then, you know, one of your aggressive uncles that definitely loves
good old
politics.
Uncle Joe.
Good old Uncle Joe.
Don't try to control me.
He just sends a political meme back and you're like, oh God, this is not going to go well.
Totally.
But I think that, like you said, it's initially setting expectations for the holiday experiences is going to be really key to how you're going to navigate it. Again, you can't control it.
No, you can't.
But you can introduce.
I think it's like you can try vision casting.
Right.
That's not control, but you can vision cast like this is what I'd love for Thanksgiving to feel
right.
Connecting and fun.
And even
and let's lay aside things we disagree on and find common ground.
Yeah. And even being able to say
the world is so divided right now. We need some connection, not division.
Totally. So even being able to say like, is everyone cool with that? Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
And send me a thumbs up if you are. And then you just see a bunch of thumbs up. Okay, good. Someone says the middle finger emoji. We know they're going to be a problem. but at least we've now ousted the problem.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We're tiptoe around this one. Mom's getting real aggressive. Grandma's lost her mind. She sent the middle finger.
Oh, totally.
So yeah, I think that's great.
That's a good first step, I think. Another step that I think can go in the preparation is to come up with a couple good, positive connection questions. Like, the first one's simple, like, what is one thing you're thankful for from this year? Or what is one way you've been brave this year? Or what is an area, like what is something that you see that's better in your life this Thanksgiving than last Thanksgiving? Some kind of, I mean, you can think through what you want. You can look up good questions online. You can just Google good questions.
Yeah.
But the reason I like to have a couple questions, like I'll write them down in a note in my phone so that if the conversation starts to get crazy,
right,
I can literally just be like, oh, hey guys, what would you think about doing a group question? And then it equals the playing field about something that's not politics.
Totally. I think, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, that's called fawning. It's called trying to create a good atmosphere in the setting, but it's worthwhile.
It's part of my survival technique I learned
as a
child.
Technique. Yep.
But it's super great for these moments. I'm going to, I think, even one up you.
Oh,
again.
This is the second.
I think even coming into those scenarios, making sure that I'm not bringing negative conversation and introducing it initially anyways, because you're like, yeah, come with great conversation, but at minimal, also come to the table being really clear about like, I'm not going to initiate any political conversations. I'm not going to say anything like negative. And I'm not saying we can't have emotions and share emotions deliberately. Like, hey, let's talk about some of the, like if the family is into stuff like that, like, hey, and let's talk about a few rough things, then we're going to share that. But if it's like, it's very easy to be like, oh my gosh, yes, can you believe the governor did this over our state? Like, I'm not going to allow that to be part of my personal discussions as I go to the table. Which
means really like, and some people need to purposely think about this. What are small talk, general things you can talk about that aren't politics? Because I think that's very common what we do when we're just hanging around people we haven't been around is like politics can be small talk.
Right. So you could talk about sports. Nope. Not that. NASCAR. Did NASCAR make it?
Concerts.
NASCAR.
Nope.
Concerts. Nope. And that is one of the problems that people are going to be bumping into is what do we talk about that wasn't affected in some big political way?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how about it's a good time to get real about yourself? How about you get personal? How about you talk about your own personal journey? I mean, the weather wasn't too bad in a lot of states, but that only goes so far.
Well, I mean, and this is where like it's helpful. Like I do think ahead sometimes of conversation starters or little things like, have you read any good books lately? Or what's your favorite movie? Those are superficial questions. You even down to things you could do like, what is something you love about your hometown that you grew up in, or what is one of the friendships that's bringing you a lot of joy in this season?
Yeah. What are some things that created hope for you?
Yeah.
What is something that fueled your hope, gave you vision, purpose inside of this season? Even though we all know it was hard, what were the things that you did to overcome that?
Yeah. So if all you're thinking about in life is politics, you're going to have a hard time switching that brain off to hang out with family.
Grandpa goes into, if you have a grandpa or a grandparent that always goes into big political conversations, subvert that by being like, how did you get through the Depression? How was it possible that you did that? You overcame that, didn't you, Grandpa? Oh, yes, we did. And we were stronger for it. Let me tell you how you get through tough things. And you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. So I think that there's this thing. The other thing that I would say as a key is to watch for bait.
Yes. People try to masturbate each other.
You idiot. You 15-year-old boy. I bet you're so excited to get that in there.
No, I just really, it's like they get really good at like baiting someone, and they're like, hey, let me just put this out here. Let me just poke the bear a little bit. And you always have that one person that's a master at that.
You masturbator, you. And here's the thing, you can get baited even if they're not purposely trying to bait you. Bait really means that they say something you feel hooked by, you feel passionate about, you feel triggered about. So let's say that you're really passionate about either about masks or not masks.
Right.
Because we have both extremes with people that listen to us. People who are like really like, no, masks save lives and protect us. And then people who are like, masks are killing our souls and our bodies.
And this is all a joke.
And so we have both sides of that. And so you've got to know if you have a hot topic and that topic comes up, you've got to have a couple options. And
you'll watch a baited question, even though it's unconscious. Someone might say something like, yeah, the whole mask thing, right? And you're just like, they just leave it hang there, waiting for someone to pick up on it and run with it. Oh yeah, let me say something about that. Instead, ignore it.
Yeah, use some self-control, people.
Yeah.
Think about, like, you can debate your family the day after Thanksgiving over the phone about masks. Like, you can go online, debate away.
I want to add this. I think one of the reasons that people get into major debates with family and politics is because you all know that you're in this forever.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times we don't necessarily get into the huge debates with other people because we know it's the end of our job. It's the end of full relationships over here. But you're like, yeah, but it's family and we fight. And I know they'll have to be here next year. So I might as well get this out of me right here.
Yeah.
But why do it there?
But here's the other thing. I think sometimes we also do that because we're used to chaos in families or we're used to chaos in holidays. So even if you're with a friend group and you're not even spending time with family for holidays, but growing up most of the time there's chaos in holidays.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we have that as an underlying, it feels safer to us to do what feels familiar. And so this idea of it's easy to jump into chaos with the people that you've done chaos with.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like, hey, Christmas. Wow, this is a really beautiful Christmas meal. Everyone's so happy. I wonder how I could set fire to this entire thing and burn it to the ground.
Yeah, because a lot of people are bored or uncomfortable if it's
so
going
bored.
well.
This is crazy. What do I do with this?
Yeah, I'm going to lob a thing out. Did you know that?
So the elections recently, right? Am I right?
Right. It's so true.
Why are you starting fires that you can't put out?
Yeah, and here's the truth. I think part of this conversation is about knowing yourself and knowing the people you're around. So you can debate politics if you're around a bunch of people who have a lot of self-control and care about relationship more than winning. I've just found that even myself, who I really value hearing people, understanding them, validating them, I can feel that there is like a political hook.
Right.
Where when conversations happen, I just want to react. I want, like, there's a bigger reaction in this season, and there's so much division. And especially if you're a feeler, you can feel the chaos, the division, the conflict in the world right now. And it's easy the other reason it happens with friends or family at holidays is we take out our frustration on the people that are closest to us.
Yeah, the people we love the most that will again be there a year from now, that we think, all right, they're not going to throw me out.
We often treat the people closest to us the worst.
True.
Which is sad.
Yeah. So if you guys need to, here's a good idea. If you need to get that out of you, go on social media and pick a fight with a random person that you have dehumanized. And I'm going back to that. Remember, you've dehumanized them. They're just a bubble in the corner with a face. Just tell them they're horrible for what they believe. Okay?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
So let's talk about if you do get into a political conversation, because you can't avoid them all the time.
No.
There's we just gave you some avoidance tactics, but there's other ways to engage a conversation in a healthy way. So we thought we would cover some of that.
Yeah. Let's start again with going back to the whole trigger thing. So what inside of me, as you're approaching these conversations and you can feel your emotions coming up and you're wanting to have input, am I having really strong emotions about this? And is it actually about the politics itself? What do the politics represent to me?
Let's not even say, is it actually about the politics itself? Because the answer will be no. For everybody. Right. Everybody will say yes. Yes, it is about the politics. Of course it's about the politics. It's because this person and this person are doing this. It's going to destroy our country. But the actual truth is politics are representing things for everyone.
Yeah. And so for a lot of people, that those politics could represent powerlessness. Powerlessness inside of the family.
Yeah. I mean, I have a bunch of clients that feel like government control feels like being controlled by their parents, and they feel powerless. They feel like their parents who didn't look out for them and abused them, it feels like now their governor's not looking out for them and abusing them. Or there's people that feel like generally a lot of the feelings are I feel unsafe and I feel afraid, and both Republicans and Democrats are finding different ways to feel safe.
Right.
Inside of it. So Republicans are like, we'll feel safe if we have our president in, because then free speech will matter more. And Democrats are like, we'll feel safe if we have our president in, because then nobody's going to get kicked out of the country. You know, like totally. There's this thing of, I mean, those aren't good comparisons of the main issues. I was just picking random issues.
Ones that feel like...
I was like, oh no. People are going to be like, immigration is not as big of a deal as free speech. Or I'm not even making any comments on politics. I just was trying to quickly come up with...
You already started a political fire during the holidays. Just by doing that, you triggered everyone on the other side of this.
Yeah. So I think the idea is both parties genuinely believe that the way they see the world will help it be safer.
Yes.
Not only for them, but for everyone else.
Yes.
And both parties also genuinely believe that the other party is going to destroy the world.
Yes.
And so we have all these triggers. It goes back to like mom and dad. Mom and dad are fighting. it used to be in politics that Republicans and Democrats didn't like, it wasn't such a huge divide.
Right.
And it wasn't such
so
a huge
polarized.
Yeah, polarized. And so now it's like mom and dad are fighting again. And if you grew up like, oh, mom was safe and dad wasn't, it's going to feel that exact same way with Republicans and Democrats. It's going to feel like, you're going to feel out of control. Everybody feels powerless and out of control just because of COVID and the amount of rules and the length of time it's been and what's going on. And so you have to understand that when we feel powerless, we want someone to blame.
Right.
Blame.
We want to create a villain.
Yeah.
We want to vilify somebody.
Because if we can vilify something, then we can get rid of that.
Right.
And then we
have
can
our
feel
solution.
good again.
Because we feel good again because we've conquered our external problem.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at the internal one. So even when we're talking about this portion of it, it's an invitation to start asking the question now, what does politics and my emotions around politics actually point towards or shine a light on about my personal life? Not when you get into the thick of the holidays during Thanksgiving and Christmas, but right now begin to go, oh boy, what is this familiar to?
Yeah. I think like for me, one of the things, just to give some practical examples, I've recognized that my trigger is that things don't feel logical.
Right.
In certain avenues of different political decisions. And that feels like my childhood. There was, growing up with a mentally ill mom, there was a lot of things that happened that felt insane and crazy and out of control.
Right.
And so now so logic feels really safe when things make logical sense, like, well, A plus B equals C, that feels safe to me. And right now in the world, there's a lot of A plus B equals Q.
R, S.
Yeah, totally. And so there's that feeling of I am now tied to an insane person again.
Right.
Which is very similar to how I felt growing up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought that's not even about who's president or not president. That's how I've just felt about politics in the last year. And so I'm aware when I get that feeling of like, okay, this is about the little girl inside who felt really out of control. And so what do I want to do? I want to convince someone of sound logic.
Yes.
Because if I can convince you of sound logic,
I'll be okay.
I can get safe again.
Yeah.
And so then I want to debate you on your logical points with my logic so that we can both get back to logic.
Right. But so much of this is an emotional issue that, again, one of the things that we've taught before is that when it comes to emotional issues, you cannot solve an emotional issue with logic.
Nope.
Emotion needs to be met with emotion.
Yep.
And then logic can come in and meet logic. And what that means is validation and being like, oh, it sounds like you felt really scared in this season. So meeting with emotional language, not being equally emotional, but being like, oh, it sounds like even...
It makes sense that you would feel that way.
It makes sense that you feel that way.
The world does feel chaotic. The world does feel out of control.
Things do feel scary right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that's something I would add to the political conversation is find ways to validate. Because the truth is, Republicans and Democrats are all feeling the same feelings. They're all feeling out of control.
Yep.
They're all feeling scared.
Yep.
And they all feel like there are a few things that are about to collapse the U.S.
Yes. And
they just
our
think
entire
they're just
future.
different
They're
things.
just different.
Yeah.
Which something you made mention of earlier, I wanted to just take a moment to point at this. You talked about how each side is wanting something. They have emotions about stuff because they ultimately want something good.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that we have to understand during the political season and all the political stuff we've had in this country, there is definitely forces that want to create more division.
Yeah.
So they do want to vilify deliberately. There is people at some level where we vilify each other because we're just in emotional spins. Then there's people who deliberately want to create the division, want to vilify the other side for political gain purposes and whatever. And if we keep that in mind, the majority of people though are good people.
Yeah.
Like there's not actual villains, although each side's been painted as villains in different ways. No, everyone actually has a good heart. The majority of people all are approaching their political beliefs because they want something good.
Yes. They want something good for the planet, for the people around them, and for themselves.
Yes. And a lot of times there are places where we get hung up in how to do that, how to go about that, what our value system is. And we become very deaf to the reality of like, oh, why is this person doing this? What is the heart behind it? Oh, they're actually wanting to take care of people. And they're always also wanting to take care of future and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's finding common ground and finding like the humanity inside of both sides is one of the ways to break down the walls and the division. Even if we have a different approach, when we can recognize that this happens in marriages all the time, where the couple, both parties will be feeling they both feel alone and invalidated and unheard. But their approach to how they fix that, one might yell to try to be heard and validated, and one might retreat to try to feel safe and validated. And so but they're both feeling the same feelings. And so when you can get people on board with like, actually, I understand you. I feel the same feelings. And both of our solutions might feel different.
Yeah.
But we're coming from the same place. That common ground can create a good bonding place.
Yeah. I had a really gentle conversation with somebody who felt like they expressed strongly differing political beliefs than I did one day. And I just kept investigating like, oh, why did you come to that conclusion? What is your heart for that? Why do you want that to happen? Why do you want those types of political bills to be passed? And they were sharing, and I was like, my gosh, you have such a, like, I love your heart on that. I love that that's what, like, I hear at the core of this, it's for X, Y, and Z. And I started, and we watched as we walked away with a lot of bonding inside of that experience. And even when they asked me about my stuff, I was like, well, here's kind of my heart on things, but I didn't feel the need to push it because I'm like, I'm not here to change this person. I'm not going to feel safer if they agree with what I agree with.
Yeah.
I don't need to change them. I'm at peace with that. I just feel like it's good that we just heard that we bonded over like what we do value and how we do want to help people.
Yeah. It's interesting what you just said. People feel safer when they belong to a group of thought.
Right.
It's hardwired in humans from back in the caveman days. Yeah. Caveman days, because there's a hardwiring for our need for survival to belong to a group.
Right.
Because back in the day, you needed a group or else you weren't going to have shelter and fire and protection
if you couldn't be
from
part of
lions.
a tribe, you were dead.
Yeah. And so there is this innate wiring in us that we think we'll feel safer if the people around us believe the same things as us. We think we'll be included. We think we won't be alone. We think we're the majority. People like feeling a part of the majority.
Yes.
Of whatever. And so then when people aren't the same as us, we want to convince them. And I think that there's a good thing to pay attention to in differences of, am I just spitting facts at you thinking that that's going to convince you?
Right.
Where we're emotionally disconnected. And this is what a lot of people forget is emotional disconnection isn't ever solved by facts.
Yep.
So if me and you disagree in politics and I start going through but this statistic and this statistic and this thing, but we're having an emotional conversation, it's never, you're not even going to hear the logic.
No.
It's not, there's not a point. But humans still believe that. They still think that when you're triggered, you can intake logical information. That's why, like, if you try to teach a kid while they're triggered, they're not going to retain the information.
Yep.
Which is why, like, sometimes when kids have really hard home lives, they really struggle in school.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the capacity to comprehend what's going on because they're in a triggered state all the time.
Yeah. I was going to add just a little bit to that. I was talking to a friend. I think I might have said this before, but I was talking to a friend and they were sharing about their political beliefs and they were sharing facts. And facts seem to be kind of relative nowadays, depending on news sources.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of me arguing facts from another perspective, I said, hey, it sounds like you get your news from a specific source. Tell me about where you're hearing your news facts from. And they shared it with me. And I was like, oh, I can see that we have completely different sources of where we're getting our facts from. And what's my point in that? There's a lot of times that we can decide like we have facts until we hear, oh, maybe there's other sources and stuff. So you can go all day long convinced that you have the facts and you guys can keep exploding in wars until you realize like, Hey, we're getting our facts from different places. We don't even know if these are facts. Why are we fighting over this? Why are we increasingly trying to dominate each other with this? We might not even have truth. Let's just get back to the idea of relationship.
Which is back to what you're saying is humility.
Right.
Not coming into conversations with, I know better than everyone around me. My system of thinking is the most right. And I understand. I mean, listen, I'm talking about this, but I feel these emotions come up in me.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, no, I'm right. Your opinion's dumb.
Yeah.
Like I can
I've
feel
totally
that,
had that happen.
especially about politics. There's this belief that I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm good and you're bad. I'm smart and you're dumb.
And the truth is, I am smarter than most people, and most people are dumber than me, especially when they don't agree with me.
Yeah. So I think in conversations, look for how you can validate and look for common ground.
Yeah.
So validation looks like, oh, I can see that you really care about making sure that, like, maybe you really care about healthcare. And that's one of the reasons that you are more democratic. And you're like, being able to say, I can see that you care about making sure people are taken care of. That is an admirable value.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're Republican and you care about freedom. I can see that you care that control doesn't take over and people have their rights. And that is a valuable freedom. Like there's this thing in, we should be able to see that there is good in all humans.
Yeah.
That there is God has written his signature over every human being. There's a part of every human being that was made in God's image. And so the idea of us being able to find that and connect to that is really empowering.
I think the other thing is, thank you for sharing that. I had a thought run through my head about attack and the idea of attack, and not gearing up for attack, not preparing for defense. Like as you're going into these circumstances, knowing a lot of us, if we're going to be with friends or family, we already know family members' stances. And in fact, you could have an entire family that has one political stance. The political conversation still might not be fun because they become intense.
Yeah, it could be we all agree, but we're like talking about how the world's going to crap for hours.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And we're preparing for the war, and even if we're all collectively going to war against a people group.
Totally.
But it's not actually emotionally connecting. You don't walk away feeling more fulfilled, more connected to the people around you because you came into agreement over surface level stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. There's this fascinating thing that happens when we agree over a negative charge. It feels in the moment very bonding. Very
connective.
But it leaves you feeling really empty.
Yeah.
And that's so true. People can all agree and it can feel horrible. So one of the things I tell people is we train people a lot on knowing themselves and their own emotions. We're doing Living Fully Alive in January, which I'm so excited about. And we help people get connected to themselves enough to know what's going on inside of themselves, enough to agree with love and not torment and shame and fear, and to not be bullied in circumstances like this, and to find your voice and your power and get your power back. And so I'm really excited about that program this year. I was just talking yesterday with one of the mentors who worked in it, and he was like, this is going to be the best year for it because everybody is primed and ready. They have so much pain and they need to learn how to process it.
Yeah. And it'll actually equip them and give them answers when they're like, oh, I didn't have answers. Here's actual practical answers that are now at their doorstep, and their pain that has never been at the surface is suddenly at the surface that they couldn't avoid. And now it's like, oh, you could actually deal with this really quickly and really easily. And
we're doing an immersion program this year, which I'm so excited about, where it's going to transform your life. You're going to, if you want your whole world to change, our program is cheaper than doing therapy for 4 months, and you will get like 3 years of therapy out of it.
Way cheaper than doing therapy for 4 months. Yeah.
So, but the reason I bring that up is in conversations with each other, the self-awareness of when you're getting triggered. I tell everyone, you can always go to the bathroom. That's one of the fastest ways. Like, you may not be able to stop the person from talking, but you can say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And then you can just breathe for a few minutes.
You can always exit. You have a way to exit always.
And then the other thing is, you can just take yourself out of conversations. Hey, this feels like it's getting really heated, whether it's like we're all agreeing or we're all fighting.
Right.
Hey, this feels like it's getting intense. I'm going to go hang out with the kids. I'm going to go outside and take a walk. I'm going to go, like, you have permission. What people don't understand is it is better to step away and protect connection.
Right.
People think it'll be rude to leave in the middle of an argument or a middle of a fight. And I'm like, no, it's actually not rude to leave.
It's worse when it becomes volcanic.
Yep.
And you become bitter and enraged with one another at the end of it because it didn't go well. Also, I want to talk about empowerment really quick because you brought up the idea of using your words about something. A lot of people are really terrified to use their words to be powerful and say something like, hey, this conversation doesn't feel fun. This conversation feels overwhelming. Hey, I would really like to change the subject on this. They feel scared of doing that because they don't want to shame someone. They don't want to make someone feel bad, but you'd rather be on the other end of it feeling really horrible and then become bitter and resentful towards them or explode on them. So like, hey, you have to give yourself permission before you go into this experience. Like, hey, I'm not going to a war and I don't have to participate in a war. And I give myself permission to set very simple, gentle, kind, clear boundaries.
Yeah.
When something isn't feeling good, like, hey, I really appreciate that you have political opinions and stuff. It feels kind of intense to me and it overwhelms me a little bit to dialogue about that. I actually would rather not have this conversation.
And when you're saying that, I'm like, it doesn't even have to be political conversations. It could be like, we're not talking about why I'm single still this Thanksgiving.
I mean, it bleeds into a million other things.
Yeah. Actually, everything we're talking about here, it relates to every conversation.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is you get triggered by, whatever it is your family does, you have so many options of how to be powerful. And most of the time in the moment, we don't feel powerful. So it's good to like have game plans. That's why I have questions in advance. That's why I have things I've thought of in advance. That's why I have boundaries I've made up in advance. Like, I can go to the bathroom. I can go for a walk. I can go watch the football game. I can go play checkers with the kids. Like, it's helpful to proactively see ways that you can be powerful, because most of the time in the moments that we're triggered, we can't think through solutions.
Yeah.
Because that part of our brain, the blood is out of our logic portion and only in the emotional portion.
Something that you said there that you pointed out was games. And a lot of families get together and they don't deliberately know how to relate and have fun.
Yeah.
And this is an easy, simple solution. Now, for some of you, you're going to go, no, you don't understand. My family's highly competitive, and that's
so
a bigger war.
Actually, the worst.
We might as well have a conversation about politics. That'll be easier than having game time. But I'm going to talk two things about game time. One is pre-having ideas of like, hey, we're going to learn a game together, or we're going to play a handful of games together. We actually have activities that we're going to create fun around, that we've already deliberately thought of and brought to it. And don't be passive about this. You might be going to a friend's Thanksgiving or a family Thanksgiving where usually mom and dad run it, or grandpa and grandma do, or whatever. But like, come with a proactive demeanor of like, no, I'm going to try and inject something. These people might not actually instigate games, but hey guys, I want to have fun this year and bring some games to the holiday experience. And I have a few thoughts. Here's a few ideas. Is everyone good with that? Before you even show up.
Yeah.
You know, you might be a family that loves Settlers of Catan, which I think it's the worst game ever created on the face of the planet. But I mean, like introducing like, hey, Settlers of Catan, Monopoly, card games.
Monopoly, oh gosh, it's the worst.
That leads into the biggest fights.
Yeah.
But whatever it is like, oh, we've come up with something creative for it. Now, on the other hand, there's the game experiences where families turn into destroying each other.
Horrible human beings.
And that's where
you walk away.
You even start with, hey guys, if we're going to play games this year, I don't want it to be highly competitive. This is about being fun.
Yeah. Or make two different tables. This is for the competitive people who like that, and this is for the people who just want to have fun. And being able to go like, this is how we're going to do this. If you guys want to be super competitive, you can go do that over there. We're going to be lighthearted over here. One of the ways that I prepare for holidays is even like several of us are putting on a Friendsgiving this year.
Good old Friendsgiving.
And so I picked someone else that I'm kind of engaging with. We both came up with a question. And so then we'll talk to the host about that and see if they're okay. So like before it, 3 of us have like talked through. So I don't feel like I'm the only person that is engaging, asking a group question. And it's not long. It's not going to take hours and hours, but it is a way to intentionally create a good atmosphere.
And if you can have a couple really good moments, even starting the holiday off, where it's like, oh, we exchanged conversation that felt really good. All of a sudden, we're on good standard. We love each other. We see each other's humanity. The rest of this day or the rest of these couple days is going to go really well because we started with humanizing each other through fun and connection.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. The more connection and love we have, and you know what? Go and tell people that when you see people, tell them the things you love about them, or ask a question, like have everyone share something they like about the person to the right or the left. Purposefully stir up love. Yeah. We have the opportunity when we're intentional to stir up love, not division. This is a year to be as intentional as you can. And also don't have expectations. If you try and you ask everybody to share one thing they love about the person next to them and your whole family is like idiots and they're like, I don't know, I love his shoulders, or, you know, like just don't put expectation. When you're intentional, lots of times people then can put expectation and it can feel really don't imagine that everything's going to be magical. Just be like, my heart is to engage it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
That's so good. Yeah. Give yourself permission to be misunderstood during this holiday season. Give yourself permission to not be right. Yep. Going into it, give yourself permission to not convince everyone else what will fix the world. Give yourself permission to be out of control. I mean, you've already been out of control this year. Let yourself continue to be out of control and just say, I just surrender it. I give myself permission to surrender to this. I'm not going to try and control this. I can introduce love into it. People might not buy into it and they might be them. And that's all I can do is create the invitation. Yep. I give them permission to disagree. I give them permission to act out of their pain. Yep. I'm going to choose to see the pain that they are in, and I'm going to see that even if I don't talk about it, I'm going to recognize that's what it really is. I'm going to give myself permission to be settled and be at peace regardless of whether or not people engage peace inside of themselves. I'm going to use self-control whether or not other people use self-control. I am going to engage love whether or not other people engage love. Like, I'm going to be powerful regardless of what's happening around me. Yep. There it is. Take your power back 2020 holiday. 2020 holiday. Anything last to say? You know, for the Living Fully Alive in the immersion program, there is a discount for early bird registration, and we're almost at the end of that. And it's a significant discount. So I would recommend get on right now. Join in. The immersion program is almost full. So if you're wanting to do that, you need to sign up for that soon. Yeah. And you can go to Justin and Abi, that's abi.com, and check that out. Living Fully Alive this year. And last but not least, rate, review, subscribe, and share. Come on, people. If this affected you, go tell people about it. Share it with your loved ones before the holidays happen. That might be a really good idea because, you know, Thanksgiving's at the end of this week. You're just like, hey, could everyone just kind of listen to this before we get thanks? It's kind of the message has been sent. Same page. We're on the same page. The other thing that I thought is maybe we could just pray for people's holidays. Okay. Yeah. If people are still listening, I'd love to do that. Yeah. So, God, we just invite your supernatural, unconditional love to come and break down the walls that are between us. And God, would you heal and bring comfort to the pain that is so real happening in every single person? And would you help us be connected when we want to throw our pain at each other, blame our pain at each other, or scapegoat our pain? Like, I just had this picture of so many people like chewing out the people they're with for the holidays about politics or about whatever it is, but it's really just because they're in pain, and that's like an acceptable way to get the pain out right now in the world. And I saw this picture of people actually getting to, instead of throwing their pain at people, being able to hold their pain and get comfort and love in the midst of it. Yeah.
So God, would you bring moments of bonding, of comfort, of connection, of tenderness towards each other, of people being able to see each other with eyes of love and hear each other's hearts.
Yeah. God, let it be a season where gentleness and kindness overflow. That gentleness and kindness with each other enters in, that your love and your care would enter in such a way that there would be supernatural gentleness and kindness, where it begins to heal people from a difficult year, where there is so much empathy and compassion for one another, that people would begin to see, oh, we're no different. We're both going through a rough year, and we're both trying to overcome and survive and figure out how to thrive and heal from things. That it would really be one of the most bonding holiday seasons that people have had in their lifetime, as people begin to settle in. God, we just ask for an immense amount of grace. Just that grace, somehow there would be grace where people are able to walk away from this holiday season and say, normally my holidays are like this, but it seemed like there was just something special that happened at our holiday where uniquely everyone came together in ways that we didn't even have to try and force it. They came together and were extra special to one another, extra loving. So God, I thank you for every person alive right now, listening to this, about to engage their holiday season. I thank you for this last year and the journey that they've been on and provision in their lives. Let it be a season where people remember how they've been provided for, the ways that they have been taken care of, and the places where there is pain, that there be resolution to pain that suddenly begins to happen.
Yeah. And right now, for all of the people who feel lonely or sad or depressed in holidays, I know that there have been waves of that I've experienced in different years, who feel like it brings up the lack. We just ask right now for love, I was thinking about that song, good tidings of comfort and joy. God, would you bring supernatural comfort and joy, that you would wrap people's hearts up. And this would be a year where people are looking to pull people in, that this would be a year where loneliness falls off of people and where they can actually feel the love of the people surrounding them, and that people's hearts would be awakened to the sound of love, not the sound of lack and poverty and fear. And we ask that all of the pain that comes up, that there would be moments where they feel connected, where they feel connection, where they feel your goodness and the goodness of people around them. Even just small things where a cashier at a store is really kind and it just connects deeply to their heart. Would love abound on the planet this year? Would depression break? God, would you come? Would you bring new life, new hope, new joy, new comfort, new relationships, new love experiences? In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, people. Hey, we love you all as we go into this holiday season. Know that y'all have been a gift to us.
Yep.
Getting to participate in the Connected Life family. Thank you for allowing us to be in your world, and thank you for entering into ours with us. So have fun, be happy, don't kill each other. Bye now.